Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 1ND podcast channel. I'm your host, Vikash, joined by my co-host, Hager. Today, we're going to be going over all the NFL games, their odds, their bets, and giving you our top five. First and foremost, though, go Rays. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think Game 3 is on tonight. Is it?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Game 3 is on tomorrow.
10:23.
Okay. Yeah, that's Friday for sure. I'm forbidden from watching the game because I'm a jinx to the franchise, so I'll look to you for all the updates.
Hey, we appreciate your service, man.
All right, so let's just get started. We can start with our recap for last week, and we both went positive last week. Let me get that going. There we go. So weekly recap again. I had the Packers, Cards, Ravens, Steelers, Titans. You had the Finns, Cardinals, Ravens, Steelers, 49ers. So a little bit of overlap. Two different. Well, I think really only one difference, which was the Packers, and you had the Dolphins. And so I went 3-2, and you went 4-1, which is very good. And so overall record for the year right now, I'm 7-7-1. It's not bad, but I want to be like positive, like more wins than losses. And you have a pretty good margin. You're at 9-5-1. So
Hey, we're beating Colin Cowherd, am I right?
yeah, we're beating Colin Cowherd for sure. He has a losing record right now.
Ugh.
And let's carry this momentum onto this week. Hopefully, we have some good picks, and we'll make some more money.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. All right. So the first matchup this week is the Buffalo Bills versus the New York Jets. Now, this game again, huge gap in the spread. This is like as current as we can make it, which is the day we're recording. And it's the Bills minus 13, which is like almost 2 touchdowns. And, the Jets do suck. They basically lost Le'Veon Bell now. I don't know Sam Darnold's condition or his status. And Joe Flacco's not good. The team is tanking for the Jets. So, I mean, they're tanking for Lawrence. The Jets are. So, yeah, I'm not touching this because of that big gap. But, yeah, if you wanted to, you just never bet the Jets. Bet the Bills.
Yeah, the Jets are definitely tanking for Trevor. The Dolphins were able to shut them out last week. Sam Darnold might play. I don't know if that's a really big difference, but the Bills' defense is actually much worse than the Dolphins' defense. The Dolphins are a top 10 defense this season, surprisingly, even though they've played some good teams too, like the Niners. They've played Seattle, so it's surprising, but they have a great defense over there. Basically stole all the Patriots players, but that the Bills defense, they've lost a few marquee players, but they shouldn't be as bad as they are right now, and it's kind of crazy how bad they are. For that reason, this is a scarier one. Yes, the Jets do suck. Their defense sucks. Their offense sucks. They don't score, and they give up a lot of points. And if you were to bet one of the two, you would bet the Bills. But take into consideration, Jamison Crowder can break out for a touchdown in one of his 20 touches a game, it feels like at this point. And garbage time's always the thing. And yeah, that Bills defense is not what it was last year, unfortunately.
Yeah, and again, I just don't bet these games as a rule of thumb because of that margin. And yeah, you're right. You never know when Crowder could break out for a huge touchdown or do what he does best in the slot. Next bet we will look at is the Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints. As of today, I don't know the status of Michael Thomas. I think he was sitting out. So that could be a big factor in whether the Saints can cover this large spread. Because right now it's 7.5 points. And whenever I see a bet that's more than a touchdown, I'm inclined to go towards the team given the points if they're a decent team. And the Panthers look pretty solid. They're one more week under the belt, one more week for Bridgewater to gel with the offense. Not really sure which one I would bet, but if I had to, I would take the Panthers.
Yeah, this is a close one. It really depends on Michael Thomas. I really need to know what's happening with Michael Thomas for my fantasy team. But regardless, I think it'll be close. I think the Panthers will make it close. I do think the Saints win this game, especially because it's home. But that being said, I would lean towards the Panthers too. if Michael Thomas plays, maybe go towards the Saints side. But the Panthers couldn't really do much against the Bears defense. Understandable, the Bears defense is pretty darn good this season. And then the problem is, if Drew Brees has Michael Thomas healthy, that's just a recipe for disaster for the Panthers. But yeah, I do think the Panthers will keep it close. I think the Saints win, but not by more than a single touchdown.
Gotcha.
I think Mike Davis will have some wiggle room against that Saints defense.
True. That is very true. Okay, moving on to the next bet for this week, we have the Browns and the Bengals. So the Browns have come off another really bad loss to like a division rival. Maybe they can beat up on their other division rival in this game, the Bengals. The Bengals, had a lead on my Colts last week, and they blew it. I mean, the Colts, I'll give it to them. They didn't give up on the game. They came back, so that's great. But I don't know which way to bet with this. I feel like we've seen two different Browns teams this year, right? Because watching last week, you'd think that the Browns are like a 1-5 or something. But in reality, they're 4-2. And it's solely dependent on the competition they're playing. So when, two of the best 7 teams in the league, the Ravens and the Steelers, beat them handedly, it's a litmus test that, they're not on that tier. But I think they have a good shot against the Bengals. -3.5, I'm not sure, because Joe Burrow throws the air out of the ball. He's always in the game. So in this game, even though I feel like the Browns are going to win, I may take the Bengals just because I feel like it's going to be slightly close.
When's the last time you watched a Colts game? You always be talking a big game about the Colts. You don't even watch the Colts no more.
I watched the first quarter last week, and then I stopped.
Yeah, I see. So I think Cleveland is overrated. They've played nobody except the Colts for their wins. Their wins have come off of Dallas, Washington, and Cincinnati. And the Cincinnati game previously was decided by 5 points. And that is notable. It was in Cleveland last time, so this time it's going to be in Cincinnati. Not like Cincinnati plays any better anywhere else. They're just bad in general. Joe Burrow looks pretty decent. He looks like a rookie, as a rookie should look. But Baker Mayfield looks like a second-string quarterback, and that's how he's always looked his entire career. And that he sucks, dude. He's not good at this game of football. But that being said, I do think the Browns have a good chance at this game. They did beat they put up 35 on the Bengals last time. That being said, a lot of it was from Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb had 22 carries, 124 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Luckily for the Browns, they have Kareem Hunt, and Kareem Hunt is just as capable as Nick Chubb, if not more capable. I don't mean to say that's rude to Nick Chubb. He's a really good runner, but I think Kareem Hunt is a more complete back. I do think the Bengals can make it close, and for that reason, I would lean towards Bengals +3.
Yeah.
But the problem is the Bengals can also, just as much as they can keep it close, they can also just get blown out at any point. And so it's just tough to even consider betting on the Bengals.
Yeah, and if you look at both of their games, they both got destroyed by the Ravens. So that could be like a good litmus test to see, which is the better team. Maybe the team that got blown out by, blown out less than the other. Again, yeah.
The Bengals scored 3.
The Bengals scored 3, yeah.
It was a garbage time field goal.
Yeah.
Just so that they didn't get, whatchamacallit?
0 points.
0 points. Yeah. And then the Browns scored a touchdown without a PAT, so 6 points.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we'll see. A close game. I think we both agree, though. Bet the Bengals if you had to, but not one we're touching.
I'm biased, though. I hate the Browns.
Yeah, true. All right, so next bet. This one is a very interesting one. It's going to be Dallas with Andy Dalton and the Washington football team with, I believe, still Kyle Allen. This game is interesting because it's basically a pick'em game, right? So, no points, no nothing. You just pick one team, the team you think that's going to win. It's a very interesting dynamic because it kind of changes the way we have to think about it. I don't know what to make of Dallas. Their defense has been historically the worst defense thus far in terms of giving up points. I think they're giving up like 33 or 36 points a game, which is just insane. At the same time, Washington's offense, not the best. Their defense is better, but, they have some decent weapons. Terry McLaurin is there. Who's their tight end? Logan Thomas, yeah. I don't know why I said Thompson. He looks pretty good. Kyle Allen, third week starting. Well, basically second week because he got hurt the first. We'll see how he does. I'm going to say the Cowboys win just because it's like a must-win for them. It would be ridiculous if they lost to this team. They still have plenty of offensive weapons, and Andy Dalton is a decent veteran quarterback. So despite their defense, I think the Cowboys win this just because it's a must-win for them to have like any semblance of winning this division, which isn't saying much. And just for that reason, I'm taking the Cowboys. But, even though this is a pick-em, I'm not going to personally bet on this game.
Yeah, just because you never know who's going to win between these two teams. I will say Washington is better than they seem, in my opinion. Their defense is pretty good, I would say. I just think their offense doesn't get it going, and then, the other team usually scores quite a bit. But their defensive line is pretty good. They can get to the quarterback. We saw Andy Dalton was great while pressured against the Cardinals last week. He was able to salvage some of that offense. He looks like he's slowly getting used to it. In that fourth quarter, he was kind of getting going. Touchdown to Amari Cooper. And it feels like over time, Andy Dalton will get more accustomed to this offense. And we all know, it's the Cowboys. They're number one. They're first place in the division, right?
Yes.
So they're first place for a reason.
Yes.
What's interesting, I think if the Eagles lose today, Thursday Night Football, so that would mean the Giants would have 2 wins, and then the winner of the Washington versus Cowboys game
is the winner.
Never mind.
The leader of the division, right? Does Washington have?
I don't think so, because the Giants beat Washington. Washington only has 1. The only team with 2 wins is
Dallas.
Dallas.
So yeah, Dallas wins,
And then-
takes sole possession of first. Even if the Eagles win, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they're going to try their hardest to win at least 4 games, because that's all it'll take to win the division this season. And it's tough to pick either team. I like the construction of the Washington football team. I think they're getting to a good place once they get a good quarterback. Maybe trade for Jameis Winston. Who knows? But yeah, Terry McLaurin's great. Logan Thomas, he's pretty good. He kind of gets fed a lot, but in terms of targets, but he doesn't do much with those targets. And then you've got a good 1-2 punch with Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick. McKissick actually looks like a really good pass catcher. I think they should give Gibson a little more pass catching, just because he was a wide receiver in college, so it would make a lot of sense.
I think it's just because he's on your fantasy team.
That as well, that is also very valid. But, I mean, he was a wide receiver in college. It just makes sense. I don't know who to pick in this one, honestly. It could go either way. I think with another week for Andy Dalton to get used to everything, maybe go with Dallas. It seems like the football team isn't really trying to win very much. I believe they went for a game-winning 2-point conversion last week against
Ron for a reason, right? Like he likes to gamble, and he's like really showing he doesn't really give 2 bleeps about what he's doing right now. Seems like he's just trying to establish a culture and like show that it's like their game for the winning, which I don't know how I feel about, but I think they're on the right track.
Yeah, they're not doing terribly. I mean, they beat the Eagles week 1, right? So that's pretty cool. So yeah, I don't know. Let's not even go on more about this game just because it's like a wash. So I'd go with, Dallas.
Yeah, I'm just going to say Dallas as well. All right, the next pick. Interesting game is going to be the Detroit Lions and the Atlanta Falcons. You can get a line for the Lions +2. This is going to be the bowl of the 2 teams that blow the most leads. Because I am telling you, Detroit loves to score early. They score lots of points in the first quarter. Second quarter, they still score a decent amount. And then towards the end, they just seem to give up points and blow leads. It's really just, these 2 teams have a knack for that. That makes it really hard to predict. The Falcons did look really good against the Vikings last week. And the Vikings were toe-to-toe with the Seahawks. So, I don't know how much you want to extrapolate from that week to week. Maybe the Vikings aren't as bad as they seem. In my opinion, they are. I think Kirk Cousins is not a good quarterback. So I just think the Falcons might be slightly inflated. You're also not getting points with them. Again, a hard game to predict. Matthew Stafford is, coming back from that back injury. He's had decent amount of time to get through it. They have some good running backs. You have DeAndre Swift on your team. He's starting to come into his own. They still have Adrian Peterson, so they have two good not utility backs, but they can utilize both backs. TJ Hawkinson is great in the end zone. I like the Lions winning this game, so if I had to pick, I'd take them. The other thing about the Falcons is that they're surrounded in trade talks right now. So they're thinking whether to trade Julio, whether to trade Matt Ryan. It's all on the table for them. The whole organization is going through this change. Doesn't really typically spell like them winning too much this year. So just because I feel like the Lions have a decent amount of weapons and, that the Falcons are just in a state of disarray, I'm going to say Lions +2.
I do like the Lions this season as a whole. They look promising. Their defense looks terrible, but overall, Matt Stafford's getting more used to getting back into the game. Like you said, he's scoring early and often, but not late. And that's uncharacteristic of Matt Stafford. He's usually that clutch guy. He usually drives the team down the field for those clutch plays. I think he and Drew Brees, they showed a really cool statistic where they were the two leaders in game-winning drives over the course of some time period. So that's cool. And then Kenny Golladay is back. That's huge for the Lions. And Adrian Peterson's doing great. DeAndre Swift broke out last week, so hopefully he can continue that. The thing with the Falcons is that they can score a lot. They can score a lot of points, especially against a bad defense. Like, the Vikings suck, right? And the problem is they can score a lot. They have the ability to score a lot. But it's all dependent on Matt Ryan, and I don't think Matt Ryan has looked any good. Like, if he was any semblance of maybe last year or 2 years ago, Matt Ryan, I would have taken this Atlanta Falcons bet, right? Even if, it wasn't a part of him losing all these games that they've lost so far this season, it's because of the defense, but it's also Matt Ryan. He's just not been the greatest. He puts up points, right? He's put up points in a lot of games, but it's easier to put up points when it's garbage time, right? And it's kind of the Dallas Cowboys effect. The Dallas Cowboys put up a lot of points in the fourth quarter of games because they've been getting blown out. That being said, I mean, they were able to come back a lot. So it's interesting, right? I would take the Lions +2. They're getting the points. They look more promising as an offense overall this season. I think they've put up 20+ points in every single game thus far, and their lowest scoring game was against the Packers at 21, and then the Bears at 23. So they'll put up a decent amount of points, especially against a bad defense like the Falcons. And whether that be from Matt Stafford, Adrian Peterson, DeAndre Swift. I know you want Matt Stafford to score just because he's on your fantasy team, but I would prefer if it was DeAndre Swift. Maybe we can compromise, make it passing touchdowns, but I would take the Lions +2 in this one.
Yeah, no, the annoying thing is, whenever they're on the goal line, they've been effective, and that's mostly with the run. I remember they were like at the 1 or 2 yard line, and the rushing attempts did get in. And the one time Stafford threw the ball for a touchdown and went to Hawkinson. So, they're very good at scoring. Not necessarily Stafford throwing touchdowns, which would help me, but no, they're good at scoring in the red zone. At least from the last game I saw, they look like they're on a roll. And yeah, we both agree Lions +2. Okay. So next bet is going to be the Green Bay Packers -3.5 points against the Houston Texans.
Kind of insane, don't you think?
This is an insane line in my opinion. I was talking about this line for the last 3-4 days. The Packers really got blown out by the Bucs. They just looked all out of sorts. They went up early. Rodgers did his little hip thrust touchdown celebration or whatever, and then that's all she wrote. The Bucs just dominated the rest of the game on defense and on offense. Saying that, before last week, I genuinely thought that the Packers were the best team in the NFL. They have the run game. and they have they have basically one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and then they just got back Devontae Adams. So overall, I really love the Packers. I think that this game is a gimme. I may be jinxing myself, but I would say 100% take Packers minus 3.5, because typically teams like to rebound after bad weeks, especially if they're great teams. And this week just seems set up for, I wouldn't say a blowout, but a solid victory by the Packers over a still, disorganized, disgruntled Texans team.
I think the Texans have a good shot at this game just because they've been getting better over the last few weeks. They know they need to step it up and try and start winning, because otherwise they're just going to be left in the dust. They have had one of the toughest schedules in the NFL, probably the toughest schedule, where they've played the Chiefs, Ravens, Steelers, all three division leaders, and then they played the Titans. And so they should have beat the Vikings. That was supposed to be a game they should have won. But now they have to go against the Packers. And if, the previous games of this season have been any indication, they don't do well against really good teams.
Yeah.
And so it's promising to see Will Fuller ball out. Brandon Cooks has been huge the last 2 weeks. He's been getting going. And if those two are getting going, Deshaun Watson will definitely take advantage. David Johnson hasn't been terrible. That offense is not bad. It's the defense that's a problem. And so I think Aaron Rodgers will definitely bounce back. Aaron Jones will probably bounce back as well. Going against that Tampa Bay run defense is no joke. And so Aaron Jones will definitely want to bounce back as well. So the Packers are a team on a mission. They want to. They were embarrassed last week, let's just say.
Yeah.
And so they looked pretty cocky in the first quarter.
They did.
And then
They did.
that's all she wrote, right?
Yes.
And so I think, the fact that a 4-1 team, Aaron Rodgers led, is only minus 3.5 is insane to me. And so almost a no-brainer for me. I think it's because it's Texans home that it might be that line, but definitely taking Packers minus 3.5. That is in my top 5 for sure.
Yes, definitely in my top 5 as well, which we will discuss towards the end of the video. Next bet is going to be another bet that is very interesting, because we were talking about it earlier this week, as soon as the lines came out. And through, we still thought that the Steelers at minus 2 would have been a great bet. But as of today, which is Thursday, the 22nd of October, the line is Pittsburgh Steelers plus 1 point. And again, I think this is going to be a great bet. I'm a huge fan of the Titans. I'm going to let you talk a little bit more about why a certain injury is going to probably lead to them not doing as well. I'll leave that to you. But the Titans look great. I do agree. But Steelers are on point. Chase Claypool looks amazing. He's utilized in every aspect of the game. He can run it in for a touchdown. He can catch the deep pass. He can catch a contested catch. And he could catch those difficult catches that, you pay the big bucks to, like for those top 5 receivers in the league. That's how good he is. Ben Roethlisberger, another week back in the league, another week back from that arm injury that sidelined him pretty much all of last year. And the Steelers are on a roll. James Conner is looking good again too. They just have all the weapons. They do have a defensive injury in Devin Bush with his ACL injury, which really sucks for that defense, but you still have big name players on the defense. You still have, especially on the front, TJ Watt, right? So I love this bet, Steelers plus 1.
I am biased. I'm a Steelers fan. I love Chase Claypool. I called him out before the season. Drafted him in a fantasy. Dropped him, unfortunately, but my team wasn't. I needed stuff on my team, right? The big injury for the Titans is Taylor Lewan, and that is huge on them, because if you look at the stats for when Taylor Lewan was in versus out in recent seasons, it impacts Derrick Henry a lot, because he doesn't run as well when Taylor Lewan is out. Even more than that, if you're going against a team like the Steelers who are going to blitz you, it's going to be tougher for Ryan Tannehill to find the open man. They do it very efficiently. Their offense has been very good this season. I believe the Steelers and Titans have very similar offenses this season. Maybe the Titans being slightly more efficient, but that could be a product of playing much easier teams. They both had not the roughest schedule. They both played the Texans. That was funny, and they both beat them. So there's no really litmus in there. But the fact that Taylor Lewan is out yet the Steelers are still +1 is kind of interesting. Probably because it's Tennessee home. But yeah, Chase Claypool's great. And if Deontay Johnson comes back, that'll be huge too. You open up the game for Chase Claypool. You open up the game for Juju Smith-Schuster. Deontay Johnson has looked great when he's played this season. And if the wide receivers are getting open, you know James Conner is going to have a lot of room to run. You also got people like Anthony McFarland, Benny Snell Jr. They're also balling at the running back position. So, 2 5-0 teams. Titans had coronavirus, so they weren't able to play the first time around. And yeah, I liked it at -2. I like it at +1. I'll take the Steelers.
Yes, sir. Both, and it's going to be in our top 5 for sure. All right, so next bet. Interesting bet, not really, because I'm not going to watch this game. Seems kind of uninteresting to me. Sorry, Jags and Chargers fans. So you're going to get the Jacksonville Jaguars +7.5 points against the Chargers. Justin Herbert looks great. They had a bye last week. Maybe it gives them a week to prepare for this game, especially. The Jaguars, Minshew has definitely regressed a little bit. A lot of bit, actually. I don't really know too much about, how their defense is doing this year. If I had to pick, I feel like the Chargers win this game, but giving the Jags 7.5 points, don't know if they can make it that big of a gap. So, personally not going to bet this game. If I did, I would still take the Chargers -7.5.
I think Minshew's been fine. I think you're just still upset at that one game where he scored us very little fantasy points, but that was his worst game of the season. And it's proven that Miami defense is no joke, right? They kept him in the game against Seattle. They beat the 49ers, which is insane. So you got to kind of give it to the Dolphins defense at that point. And Minshew, outside of that, he's put up some touchdowns. He's put up some numbers. That being said, I feel like the bye is not what you want because for Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert was on a roll before the bye, and then you kind of just ruined that momentum with it coming at this time. It's going to be an interesting game. I do think the Chargers win. It's Chargers home. I was considering the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I realized as promising as their offense looks, they just don't play close games. They did in the beginning of the season, right? They beat the Colts and then they played close to the Titans. They only lost by 3. But the rest of the games were not close at all against the Dolphins, Bengals, Titans, Lions. The closest one being the Bengals and Jaguars, and that's just garbage time. So I have no faith in the Bengals. In the Jaguars, and the Chargers look good offensively. Justin Herbert's managing it real well. Eckler's still out. That running game, not the greatest, but the Jacksonville Jaguars defense is terrible. And so if I had to pick, I'd probably go with the Chargers, but I'm trying to steer clear of this one.
Yeah, I'm not going to bet this one. Just seems too unpredictable to me. And yeah, enough said. What did you say you would bet if you had to bet?
The Chargers.
Yeah, still agree. All right, moving on to the next bet. Another okay game. I think this game is looking a little enticing if you did see the Broncos and Patriots game. I'm not going to give too much weight to that game. I feel like the Patriots were in all sorts of disarray. They were riddled with COVID, infections. Cam Newton just came back. It's, they had to hold tons of their practices over online video conferencing. So the Patriots just looked out of whack. Broncos, I still don't think are a very good team. I feel like the Chiefs win this handedly. Chiefs have had some trouble, with their run. Sometimes, they could contain Patrick Mahomes. I feel like the Broncos don't have anyone to contain Patrick Mahomes. Le'Veon Bell is coming back, which is going to be a very interesting addition to that running back group. They're going to have someone who can do it all, and now Elaire and Bell. We'll see how they utilize both. Even though the spread is 10, I'm still thinking Chiefs. What do you say?
So I think the X factor is not Le'Veon Bell. I don't think I'm a Steelers fan. I don't think he's as good as he seemed to be in Pittsburgh. I think he's a product of that offensive line. And so I don't think that's going to be huge for the Chiefs this week. I do think Noah Fant coming back will be huge for the Broncos because he makes that offense click. Drew Lock came back last week. Tim Patrick has looked great. Cortland Sutton's out for this season. And then you've got Jerry Jeudy, obviously. Melvin Gordon, I don't know about him. But Philip Lindsay filled in great. And Philip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon healthy, that's a great 1A, 1B. And so the Broncos are not as bad as they seem. That Patriots defense is good. Problem is, they scored all their points off of field goals last week. And so it'll be much tougher to do that. To win off of field goals against the Chiefs. The Chiefs will definitely be able to score against the Broncos. The Raiders play the Chiefs pretty well. If maybe teams start trying to follow that formula, it might work, but I do think the Chiefs will win this handedly as well. And if I had to pick, I'd go with the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think we agree there. All right, next bet. We have the San Francisco 49ers plus 2 points against the New England Patriots. I'm very curious about your stance on this. For me, it's very hard to predict for me. Like, I don't know what to expect from the Patriots. I know more or less what I'll get from the 49ers. You know, great coach. Jimmy G looked terrible after his injury, but he was still hurt. Looked really good last week. So I think their offense is going to be fine. They do miss Bosa on defense, but their defense should be okay. The Patriots is really what's boggling my mind because I don't know what Cam Newton we're going to get. Are we going to get the Cam Newton from last week, or are we going to get the Cam Newton we saw the first few weeks of the season? I think that's going to be a very big factor in this game. And along with that, I think the Patriots are going to have to run the ball effectively, which last week against the Broncos, they didn't really do too well, and they just looked all out of sorts. If I had to pick a bet and I had to pick a team to win, I would say the Niners plus 2 because they just have more cohesion. And it's easier to say that, you know, the Niners are looking good. Shanahan is, you know, top-tier coach, as is Belichick. But at this point in time, the talent, it lies with the 49ers. Definitely, I'll take them plus 2.
Yeah, so I think Jimmy G looked great last week. I think the fact that Deebo Samuel is back is huge for the Niners. And the allure with Deebo Samuel is that they get him the ball no matter what, right? They're very creative in getting him the ball, and he'll do everything else. He's a great athlete. The Patriots rely on the run, and the Niners have a great run defense. So far this season, I don't recall any running back having a good performance against them. And they've played some decent ones, right? They've played like Miles Sanders. They played the Rams with Darrell Henderson and the other ones, Myles Gaskin, you know. And so they've played some decent running. Kenyon Drake to start the season. So the Niners' run defense is pretty good, and that's what the Patriots rely on, their run. Cam Newton is back for the second week from his COVID-19 stint, and so he'll most definitely do better than he did last week. I hope so, because someone dropped him in one of our leagues and I picked him up, so I'm happy about that. But I do think the Niners just have the advantage here. It hurts to not have Raheem Mostert. I think he makes that offense click, but I do think that I also don't know if Stephon Gilmore is playing this game. That's kind of a big part as well. But the Niners spread the ball around a lot. Jerick McKinnon has looked pretty good as a pass catcher, as a running back as a whole. And then they'll have Jeff Wilson Jr. as well. I don't know about Tevin Coleman either. I don't know where he's been either. But you've also got Jimmy G coming back to New England. Probably not, I wouldn't say revenge game, but, you know, he's got a little something to prove to the people over there. So
if anything, it's like a thankful game because Belichick didn't ship him off to, like, Cleveland or somewhere terrible.
And so I think Belichick will open up the defense like Jimmy Garoppolo, and then be like, "I told you so, Robert."
That's an interesting
to Robert Kraft.
That's a very interesting theory. Let's see how that plays out.
I'll take the Niners plus 2, and it's in my top 5.
Gotcha. Not in mine. Okay, next game in my top 5, we have the Seattle Seahawks against the Arizona Cardinals. This one, I'm picking the Seahawks minus 3.5. Really, with 2 reasons. One, Seattle's coming off a bye. You're giving Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll an extra week to study, prepare for this game. I think that alone is a huge bonus for them. I know Seattle keeps it close, but 3.5 is a decent enough buffer The other big reason is because I saw the Cardinals go against a very, very historically bad Cowboys defense, and Kyler Murray didn't really look to be that stellar, at least in the passing game, right? He can run, and I give him that. Amazing at picking up yards with his legs. How many completions did he have? I forget. I think it was like
9.
9 completions, right? So very lackluster in that regard. I think they were playing a team that quit, so that score was slightly inflated. Just for example, that 69-yard touchdown Kenyon Drake had, that was really, when I looked at it, a play to run out the clock, and it just turned into like this huge touchdown play that really should have never happened, honestly. So I feel like the score was a little inflated. The historically bad defense made their offense look great, but in reality, it's not looking too hot. I think that, coupled with Seattle's, downtime and being ready for this game, and the fact that Russell Wilson, in my opinion, is MVP this year, is a good reason to take Seattle minus 3.5.
I feel that. I do think the Cardinals, maybe Kyler Murray wants a little bounce back game, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, even if Kyler Murray looks terrible as a quarterback, he can always improvise and make a great run when need be. Yeah, he didn't look the greatest. He had that one 80-yard touchdown, and that was almost a majority of his yards. And so he should have done better against that Cowboys defense, right? Maybe you could chalk it up to Leighton Vander Esch coming back, but you can't really do that. They're still a historically bad defense, and so it's kind of strange that he didn't have the greatest game. That being said, they put up 38 points, right? And the Seahawks, they also don't have a great secondary, and so you're going to force feed DeAndre Hopkins against the Seahawks and see how that goes. And I think it'll work decently. Seahawks obviously look amazing. They've not slowed down this entire season. But a point you made previously to me is that they do like to keep it close. And if there's any team that can make it a close game, that is the Arizona Cardinals. And for that reason, I'm steering clear. There's also, a divisional game with, Cardinals home. That's a tougher one, too, for the Seahawks. The Seahawks, they've played good teams, right? They've played the Patriots. That's about it, really. That's all the good teams that they've played. So the Cardinals will be a good litmus test as to if they're actually a good team, right? Because the Patriots' offense is not even, proven yet. They looked up and down so far this season. So we'll see. If I had to pick, it's not in my top 5, but I'm kind of leaning towards the Cardinals just because of the momentum that they're bringing into this game. That being said, they've played some trash teams, so I don't know. I think they keep it close. And so what is it? Cardinals minus 3.5?
Well, it's Cardinals.
Cardinals plus.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd probably lean towards that.
Gotcha. We shall see. Okay.
Good game, though.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game to watch for sure. So next game, and the final game in our coverage at this point in time, is going to be the Chicago Bears plus 6 points against the Los Angeles Rams.
Mind-boggling, isn't it?
It really is, in my opinion. The Bears have one of the better defenses this year, and they always keep games close. They have beaten now what looks like the best team in the NFL, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The game was close, but that defense really did force Tampa to commit some really bad penalties. And you could say that was a discipline thing, but I think, it's also a pressure thing, right? So their defense looks amazing. And Nick Foles, another week under the helm. They always keep the game close. So while I'm not saying that they beat the Rams straight out, they keep it close, and you're giving them 6 points. I say this is an easy Bears pick.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? The Rams have looked more promising recently, besides last game where they only put up 16, which sucked for me because I started Jared Goff and Cooper Kupp, so that was trash. But the Rams overall this season, they've looked pretty good, right? And it really, I think, comes down to if Darrell Henderson or Cam Akers or Malcolm Brown can break out. Because if their running game is going well, I think that really lends to their passing game. And at this point, They seem like they're a run-first team. They would prefer to run the ball more. And so it's interesting that, the Bears, yes, they've kept it close. They've won 5 games this season, and they beat the Bucks. And the Panthers are no slouch either. And so their one loss is to the Colts? And that's a great defense, right? And that was Nick Foles' first start against. So, he's getting more acclimated to the offense. And so the fact that you're giving the Bears 6 points, it's kind of interesting to me. And so, yeah, this is definitely my top 5. They've kept it close all season. Even if they don't win, it's going to be a close game, I think. And so you gotta take it when it's given to you, So this is in my top 5.
And another thing we discuss often is how the Rams really like to play to the level of their teams, rather than be playing up to the level of teams or down to the level. So that also kind of adds to that keeping it close factor. And yeah, +6, easy bet for us in our top 5. And as of right now, these are the current bets available on Bovada. These 12 or 13 games, I believe. What we will discuss next is going to be our top 5 bets for this week, which will again be tallied up at the end of the week and added to our total overall score. So we're going to go to our top 5, summarize it, and hopefully you guys can bet along with us and make some money. All right, so right now we have my and your top 5. An interesting thing to point out is, well, there's a little mistake here. Let me go in and fix this. Should be Bears +6. 6. There we go. Oops. Yeah. Okay, so we have 4 of the same top 5, which is, very... it's not really... It's like we're trying to pick the teams that we think have the best odds of winning with the spreads that they have. So... in reality, it's kind of like a confidence booster for us because we're using logic to determine which games we think have the best probability of winning, and that's going to have some overlap. If we were, always different, then it means we have totally different mindsets on what's going on in the league in these games. So that overlap is there. 4 teams. I think it was 4 last week as well, and so we'll see how it goes. So the difference this week is going to be you pick the Niners +2, which I think is going to be a great bet. I just don't know how the Patriots are going to do. And I picked the Hawks -3.5 because the Cardinals didn't look too great against the Cowboys, even with their inflated point score, and the Seahawks are coming off a bye. So that's our 2 differences. I'm just going to run down my top 5 really quick, give my reasons, and then you can do your top 5. So I'll start with the Packers -3.5. Terrible loss. Teams usually like to bounce back, especially the great ones. Texans are a mediocre team at best, and you're only -3.5. Packers, easy pick. Bears +6 looks great. Keep the games close. Take the 6 points. You should be able to win with that margin. This is going to be the interesting one, and that's not covered in this game. That would be the Bucks -3. Due to Bovada not having this game at the current point in time, it's not in our slides, but it is like a bettable game if you check other sites. The reason it wasn't bettable for a little bit today was because of a COVID scare, but the game has been rescheduled to I think a 4:05 or 4:25 p.m. time slot on Sunday. So the game is still going to be happening. So there's no delay. The game will happen. You can still bet on it if you check again maybe within the next few days. So we really like this game. One, I think we both agree that the Bucks do look like the best team in the league now, especially after that strong victory against the Packers, who in my opinion were the best NFL team prior to last week. Tom Brady, another week with the team. Chris Godwin is back. Mike Evans is back, still slightly hurt, but he should be good to go. Rojo has looked really good, and that defense is just deadly. So against Las Vegas, who may not have some of those linemen, which are very important for Derek Carr, man, that could spell some trouble, and Bucks -3 looks like a good line for that game. After that, we have the Steelers +1. We really both like the Steelers. They have amazing offensive pieces, great defense, one of the top 5 defenses in my opinion. Titans have a key injury, so take Steelers in the points. And then again, Seattle, as to why I explained earlier.
Yep, and so my top 5, I got the Packers minus 3.5. Got to bounce back after an embarrassing loss to the Bucs like that, and better than the Texans, right? That's a team that has been susceptible this whole season. They're 1-5, and the fact that the Packers aren't favored by even more is kind of insane to me.
Yeah.
And so look for them to bounce back. Aaron Rodgers, that's a bad man there, you know. The Bears +6. You've got them always playing close games. The fact that they're not favored is kind of interesting. They have the better record. They've looked better this season. They look more consistent this season. Another week for Nick Foles to get into the rhythm of the offense. I think the Bears take that one. I mean, they may not win, but they'll keep it close. Bucks -3. If this is an interesting one. The fact that it's not up is kind of annoying, but if it does come back up, definitely recommend doing this. Last time, the Oakland Raiders, they do look good this season. I will admit, they beat the Saints. That's no easy feat. The Bucks couldn't do it, and so it's a tougher one. But then you consider the fact that the Raiders really lean on that run, and the Bucks are run stoppers. They do not let people. They do not give much room to run, and so and you couple that with the fact that the offensive line is maybe sitting out this week, and so it's just a recipe for disaster for the Raiders. So Bucks -3, that's the way to go. Steelers +1. I am a biased Steelers fan. The injury to Bush, it hurts, but I think the fact that Taylor Lewan is out hurts the Titans even more, just because of how integral he is to the offense. And so I do think the Steelers win this one. Those offensive weapons are incredible. That defense is great. So I think the Titans will have their hands full with the Steelers. Niners +2.5. They're bouncing back from that embarrassing Dolphins defeat. Last week was a great indication. I think they keep it going. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to start getting into his groove. Debo Samuel's back. Brandon Ayuk looks great. The fact that Raheem Mostert's out is kind of tough. Stephon Gilmore, don't know if he's playing or not. He may be playing, but even if he does, they spread the ball around enough, and George Kittle is back in full form. Got to take the Niners +2.5 in that one. The Patriots looked terrible against the Broncos last week. So, yeah, that's our top 5.
Yeah, dude, and, we had a great week last week. Bo went green. You were 4-1, which, take it as you will. If you bet with us, you could make some decent money, and, we are going to be updating again at the end of this week, and we're going to continue through the end of the season, and hope you look forward to our next week's picks as well as these. Let's go out there and make some money.
Yeah, make sure you check out our spreadsheet in the description. That'll show you our historic picks for this season. We did start week 4, so we started a little late. But, keep along with us, keep track with us. Subscribe to follow along. We are green this season. Sauger's 7-1. I'm 9-5-1.
9-5,
something like that.
Yep.
And so, we haven't lost you any money yet. So we'll keep it going. We'll keep it going. Yep. If you listen to Colin Coward, he's not doing very well for you. So come over to us. Yes. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
All right. Thank you for watching.
All right, guys. Peace out.